Spencer Scott Holmes, and returning guest, comic book creator and artist, Dennis Sweatt.
Hello, how are you?
Now, back again. We keep saying we'll run into each other at the movies and whatnot, and be like, gotta do a podcast again, gotta do one. And it's just always that scheduling thing, but...
It's been a year?
Has it really been that long? I want to say actually last time it was summer, because I remember being hot.
Yeah.
And we're in the child's room of a gym.
With the spinning crayon fan.
Yeah. Good old spinning crayon fan, and it was just like, that fan wasn't doing enough. Wasn't doing justice.
It was not inspiring either.
So now we're sitting in a massage studio. I'm not too sure what's weirder. Podcast in a child's room or a massage studio.
And neither one of us are giving massages at this moment.
No.
We're also dressed.
Yeah, we're fully dressed.
There are no hot rocks.
There technically is a massage going on 2 doors down, but...
And we're not watching that either.
No, we're not sitting around commenting on it.
Yeah, I wish it was me, would be my comment.
I don't know, we getting that massage now?
I assume since your girl does the massage things, I get comped, right? I do a podcast, I get a massage.
Yeah, it comes with a package deal.
If I make a joke and if I'm funny, I get the hot rocks.
Hopefully not too hot. So Dennis, what have you been up to? You been working on your comic too much at all?
Oh my god. So, yeah, I was pretty hot and bothered about doing the comic last time. I went to the Stockton Comic Con. And you guys had gone one time, is that correct?
We went to the Sacramento Comic Con.
Oh, you went to SacCon.
And that was the first time we ever went to one of those. Something I've always wanted to do. And we're just like, it's in Sacramento. Let's go. I saw like an ad on the TV, like probably only like 5 days prior, and then went online, bought the tickets and everything.
That's how I got to Renaissance Fair, the same way like 10 years ago.
Yeah, you just see an ad, you're like, I'm doing it. Let's go.
Well, I've got a table there now. I paid the $60. I'm still on page 8 of the comic book.
That's good. That's only $60. If you want to get one of because I talked to a guy that had a table there. It was $500 for the little tables at the Sacramento one.
But yeah, and he's probably selling something too. It's probably not.
Well, that makes sense why there wasn't that many actual comic book artists there that weren't, famous and been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah, what are they thinking? Do they think we're just made of money?
Because there was about 3 Sacramento independent comic book guys there. That was about it, and they mostly all shared the same table.
It's shameful.
Like probably the youngest guy other than that was Ethan Van Sciver, or however you pronounce his name exactly. He drew a lot of the Jeff Johns Green Lantern. He did the Dark Knight New 52 while that lasted.
While that lasted.
Yeah, he told us that. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, this thing's ending, just to let you guys know. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I haven't got around to reading that Batman one yet, because Batman's always very overwhelming. You sort of got to pick and choose which Batman series you're going to read.
Well, you and I have seen some good movies that come to the theater. We really love, I love Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I still haven't got to see that yet. You were telling me that it's just fantastic.
Super good. The tension keeps building. You actually, even though it's Tom Cruise, and I'm not a huge fan.
I'm on the opposite side, where I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. I've always liked Tom Cruise since I was a kid, Probably all do the things like Top Gun and stuff growing up watching that.
He's committed, he's athletic, and he's a good actor. I just suppose that whole thing he did on Oprah kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, it's always kind of weird, but I've always learned that I trust Tom Cruise's judgment in what movies he picks. Because, like last year with Oblivion, I love that one.
Oh yeah, Oblivion was good.
That was amazing.
Well, Jack Reacher kind of took a poop.
I didn't see that one.
It's a little slow.
Yeah, it was one of those ones. Sometimes I will say when I see the PG-13 thing, it's almost like an instant well.
Is there going to be enough blood, guts, and butt in that movie?
Well, nowadays it's almost kind of like, I understand why PG-13 movies thrive from late 80s to like 90s, because it was at a time where you could still sell kind of like an action movie and have it be sort of family friendly enough. But now it seems like, I don't know, by the time a kid's 10 years old, he's already seen more rated R movies than most people, so it's just, why not just make it rated R? It's not like you're losing that much, audience.
Well, with the internet, how many kids and teenagers have seen just about everything?
Yeah.
They're no longer, insulated from things like that, like we used to be.
Oh, yeah, well, with us, yeah, it's just like, yeah, whatever magazine you came across, that was about it.
If we'd have seen Two Girls, One Cup, in 2000, and one, I'd have lost my freaking mind.
One, it would have been all pixelated because you were sitting there downloading it for an hour and a half just to get 10 seconds into it.
Yeah, it would be 12 kilobytes of actual picture JPEG. It'd be really bad.
You wouldn't be able to make out too much what was going on. You're like, is this animated? I can't really tell.
God, I hope that's ice cream. Well, X-Men was good.
Oh, I really like the X-Men one. I'm glad I got to talk about something about movies because recently with a couple buddies I've been doing it with, they watch movies but not nearly as much, They've been, because Dunnigan right now, he's in San Francisco. So I've been doing it with my other friends, Cameron and RJ. And, they're really into video games and movies as much, but they don't keep nearly as up to date. So I'm always like, I need somebody to talk movies with.
We don't do that enough either.
I know.
We should have a movie podcast.
No, I really could do a movie podcast, do a gaming podcast. I would say doing a comic one, but then I realized I'm like, comics is something you only have enough money to buy so many of them. And then when I really look at it, I'm like, well, I'm really just like a DC Comics person. That's like majority of my things I get. And I'll pick up a couple independent ones. And even Marvel, I've almost just come to the conclusion, I'm like, I'll watch the Marvel cartoon shows. It almost fills me in on everything. It's just, there's that time and, there's only so many you can get.
Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be the shit. I'm so excited about that.
Oh, it looks so good. But both their trailers are great. And going back to Edge of Tomorrow, the one downfall I will say to Edge of Tomorrow is every time I go, and this is the problem with going to the movies a lot, is every movie I saw, they had that same trailer with that same song in it. And it was just like, there was a point where it was just like, man, I think I've seen this trailer 25 times.
It's a bit morose.
Yeah.
The song's a little bit of a downer. But I think it's
but this song, like after a while you start getting the point, you're like, oh, not that song again.
But it belies the apocalyptic, feel to the movie.
Well, the interesting thing too is that technically it's a comic book movie. It's based off a manga.
Well,
or is it based off a Japanese book? I can't remember. It's one or the other.
The ectoskeleton stuff that they did was pretty smart. I mean, they did a lot of sliding, where he would come across the field and just slide in and kill the thing. And they kind of amped it up from the stuff I've seen before. I really enjoyed that. And as the movie progressed, he became more and more of a warrior.
Yeah, each time learning something new.
Yeah, you get really excited about that. So,
and
of course, it's got a love story. Yada yada
yada. Gotta have that in there and so on.
How many times can they kill one woman?
But I know that it's based off. It's based off. I want to say a manga, but there might have been like an actual Japanese just novel prior to that too. I could be wrong. But which is the weird thing too, because it doesn't look like that right away. But then you're like, well, I guess it's got mech-like things in it.
What else do we do besides X-Men? What's before that?
Did you see the Godzilla one?
No. Big monsters, smashing stuff. I don't know.
I saw that Godzilla. I actually ended up seeing it twice because I went with somebody else to see it too. And it's one of those movies. It does take a long time to build up, though. The first hour, there's a couple tidbit action scenes, I guess you can call it, but they're not Godzilla.
I heard there's a lot of talking in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of talking. And, even if you go back to the old Godzilla movies, when I was kind of a kid, like, I would just tape them all on VHS, and I would a lot of times fast forward through all the talking and just get right back to Godzilla. It's just like, what these Japanese scientists have to say is not important to me. I just want to see Godzilla on Monster Island fighting God knows who. Anybody will do.
Yeah, and with bad
dubbing. Since they released this new Godzilla, they released a pack, because for the longest time I was always looking for the Godzilla movies, but I want them in Japanese. Because the dubbing is like what makes people think they're kind of like comedies. So, but I found this pack and it had 7 films in it, and they were all in Japanese. Right? I think they got both in there. You can change, but Japanese with subtitles. They got a bunch of special features on them too, and I just ordered it on Amazon. I don't think I'm in yet. Thought it'd be here by today. But it had, has the original Godzilla with both versions in it, the American and the US one. It has Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Godzilla vs. Mothra, King Ghidorah, the first one of that. I want to say the one where he battles a space alien thing that really looks like a 50s like sci-fi monster. And then like 1 or 2 other ones. But I was so excited because I'm like, it was so hard to find one where they're just in Japanese. It's like, I don't want them dubbed. That's the key thing, I grew up watching them dubbed because that's what it was on TV, but...
But dub fails when it comes to like Hong Kong theater because I got the original movie Hero way back in the day. I knew somebody that actually worked in the video store when DVDs first came out. He got this thing from Asia, and there was no English on it whatsoever. There was subtitling, but it was so good in just the original Japanese or the original Chinese. Now I see it on TV with the dubbing, and it's an atrocity.
Because I got that same movie when I saw it in theaters. It wasn't dubbed. It had subtitles. And yeah, on DVD. But yeah, that's the worst thing. It's kind of like Bruce Lee movies were kind of hard to find for a long time too. They were always the dubbed ones. Nobody made I guess they just never assumed that people at first wanted that. They're just like, who the hell's gonna want to buy a movie with subtitles?
Back in the 70s,
yeah,
when bigotry was normal.
And every once in a while you will find a movie where you go like, they probably put 100% effort into that dubbing. It's pretty good. Because sometimes I'll watch a movie, it's like, that's actually not so bad. Obviously it's going to be better without it, but I'll take it. It's actually, they did a good job as far as dubbing can go.
Full Metal Alchemist was kind of good. The voices seemed to sync with the people and the characters.
In animes, I prefer dubbing over like the Japanese one, unless the dubbing's bad. Because I went back, I got so excited once I found Voltron Season 1 for $3, and I was like, oh man, I haven't watched this forever, I'm going to go back and watch that. And I get about 2 episodes in it, and I'm like, I just can't, there's a couple characters, I just can't. There was like the guy with the glasses, and he's like, I talk like this! And it was just like, no. I'm like, is there a Japanese option? There's no Japanese option, are you serious? It's DVD, it's not VHS, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I ended up just reselling it.
Have you seen Akira dubbed?
Yes.
It's just not the same. I mean, the voices are pretty good, but the inflection's wrong.
Yeah, well, I got that special edition one of Akira where it's got both versions on it and some special features and whatnot.
Well, back to the comic book. I started working 2 jobs, opened Staples, closed the theater where I work, and then I closed the bar with my roommate Lily.
So aren't you technically doing 3?
I'm doing 3 jobs, and then occasionally, mostly, I'll sleep 3 to 4 hours a night, and life, other things. Got my car towed. I mean, you can't be an artist without having your car towed.
Yes, especially by this cop that's hunting you down here.
Oh my God. What's wrong with this dude? 3rd time he pulled me over for nothing. There was no citationable thing.
And it's not like you're a threatening guy. You're wearing a Punisher t-shirt now. That might be something. He's being like, so, you going in with the law or out of the law? And you're like, well, I'm not being too much of a vigilante today.
Well, you didn't have to weapon search me. But because I kept giving him crap about pulling me over 3 times and not remembering who I was and this pointless, ingestible thing, he got mad and basically just made it as long as possible and took as much out of me as he possibly could. I was hot.
Well, he really probably need to make that quota or something.
Yeah, I'm going to quote him. They got the thing in the police station here at Sonora that says it's a DUI Top Gun. Mm-hmm. So they're all looking for it. I get that. I'm against drinking and driving. I say go get him. But after the 3rd time he pulled me over and I'm dry as a bone, sober as a judge, get the out of my face.
Exactly. It's just like, come on, really?
Yeah, it was a wake-up call. So anyway, among distractions and emotions and falling in love with the wrong people and all the things that artists do, get too involved, being totally committed to something when they should just go in piecemeal, I've been really distracted. Today was the first day I sat down. I did a Wolverine. I should have wrote it with me.
Nice.
And it actually came out pretty good. I've just had to focus on pushing everything away and getting into that. I may not make the comic convention with a finished comic book, but I will do it before I die. Otherwise, my kids are going to kill me.
Perfect. Like, you got to get it done.
It's been so long. They're tired of waiting. They're tired of hearing that, I'm on page 8.
Yeah. Just got to get past that point. I know. For the last couple of months, it seems like I've been working on drawings, but I haven't got a single animation done in a while. That was, solos, standalone drawings. So, but starting up on the new Drunk Batman episode 9. So we're getting some drawings going there, and Ryan just sending me a bunch of them. And then
I was teaching an art anatomy class too at the Wild Rose.
You were doing that on Saturday. I remember.
Yeah.
So maybe I can never make it to there because I work Saturday.
Yeah, well, nobody made it. Well, the first class we had 13 people, and it just kind of declined after that. And I don't blame the declination on my part. The class was good. We had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Everybody raved about it when they came and left. But just not enough people showed up. I would have done it for one person just so I could say, oh, I teach drawing.
Yeah,
I teach art.
No matter what.
Self-esteem besides wearing polo shirts for every company on the planet. It was my only recovery. Well, plus going to college and all the other things, and I've just been distracted. And I'm aware of it more now, the distractions that are there. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to figure out a way to excise those specific things so I can focus on myself.
Yeah. I was reading this article on Triple H. It was in like the new Muscle and Fitness, and then there it said he slept 3 hours a night, and I was just going like, how is that? How are you supposed to be able to work out? I mean, I know he doesn't wrestle like all the time, but do all this, behind the scenes WWE stuff, and 3 hours a night, like even though it's Triple H, so if anybody's probably getting the stimulants they need to keep him up, it's gonna be him. You know, it's just like, you know, contrary to like every workout thing that you're supposed to get 9 to 10 hours. You know, I always heard that Schwarzenegger only got 6 hours of sleep. But.
Yeah, I'd be down with it. I think that I did start working out. I mean, the last time we talked, I was probably 247, and right now I think I'm 220.
Nice.
So that
that's improvement.
It took a year.
That's okay though. 25 pounds or so. Wait, what'd you say? 220 and
247 to 220.
So 27 pounds.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But it's a roller coaster. It always is. You go down, and then tomorrow you're gonna have a little bit of a belly, and you're like, screw it.
Yeah, I know. There's always that one point where you're like, oh, jeez, what I ate last night? Oh, I guess it was that whole pizza.
It was 105 out last week. So I'm going to the store and getting some freaking chocolate ice cream. That's just nowhere around that. I can't avoid it. It's calling me.
Yeah, so you want something cold?
Oh, something cold and to just freeze my throat, and I'd be happy. My last name is Sweatt with 2 T's, so I do it profusely.
That's what I feel like. I always tell people, I'm like, I sweat sitting down. Like I don't have to do. Like, I can watch a movie and I just start just busting out.
Thank God it's not just me.
Like I'm just like one of those people. Just like I don't have to do any physical activity, just to extremely sweat. I sweat all the time in the movie theater. I sit there and I just get so. I just start getting so hot. And everybody's looking at me like, dude, you're just sweating bullets. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Well,
the movie hasn't started. We're still at like the ads.
How could you stress about something you haven't seen? Well, I think my heritage is like Scottish, Nordic kind of combination.
So you got the same thing I have.
Yeah, yeah. If I was walking around in a snowstorm, I'd be drinking a milkshake and be perfectly happy.
I think that's the same thing too with me. It's just with that like Northern European bloodline, you're expected to be in 60 below degree weather the whole time.
Yeah, a little bit of fog, some drizzle.
So like, you know, it could be 70 degrees out and you're like, man, it's a heat wave.
My freaking roommate, because she's got a thyroid thing, she always gets cold as soon as the temperature alters by a few degrees. So we can't have the house too cool, can't flip on the AC, all that kind of stuff. Going to the theater and it's just a little bit cold, it's too cold for her, and I totally understand it, but I tend to walk around, you know, in warmer environments that I'm used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the movie theater, like, for years has always been, like, in the wintertime it's way too hot, and in the summertime it's way too cold. Because you come outside, you're like, okay, I'm used to 100 degree weather, I go to the movie theater, and all of a sudden it's like 75, and you're like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this.
It's nice to work there when it's this cool. Because when you clean the theater, you're running up and down stairs and flip the chairs.
You want to be that cool.
Yeah. No complaints from me. Some of the big people will come out. A big woman came out the other day, and the theater must have been probably 72. I mean, the AC just kicked on. She said, could you turn down the temperature? It's too hot. So I walked in behind her. I'm like, oh my God, it's an icebox. What are you eating?
Yeah, where do you live at?
How many people are you eating? Slow down. Quit breaking the chairs.
Speaking of movies, what are you looking forward to this summer of, like, movies?
Definitely Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the one movie I want to see most of all.
That looks great. Both trailers. And I remember at first, like, when they took... Ryan was telling me, he's like, dude, you gotta check that trailer out. You know, it's got, not Steelers Wheels, but, what's the band that plays that song? The
older band?
Yeah, the one, I was thinking from Reservoir Dogs.
Oonga Chunga.
Yeah.
Oonga Chunga. What is that?
I'm drawing a blank right now.
I'm stuck on a feeling?
Yeah, stuck on a feeling, or hooked on a feeling.
Hooked on a feeling, that's it.
And it's just like, obviously Reservoir Dogs, that's where I first heard that song. You know, the song's 20 years prior to that, but...
I'm still pissed about him cutting the ear off that cop. I don't know why it bugs me so much. Because he was just trapped there. I mean, that just seems like the height of cruelty. The lack of empathy from that character. It got me. It's good filming.
Oh, that's a great one. But that Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, it just looks great, you know, because at first it sounds like they put that song in a sci-fi movie. It's just like, what does that have to do with... And it was like, and then you watch it, like, it ties in real well. And it's sort of got that kind of like Buck Rogers, kind of a little bit of a fun sci-fi adventure. And I've never read anything Guardians of the Galaxy. I know what sort of it is. I've always known, like, I've seen those characters and what have you, but I really couldn't tell you too much more about it.
The 4-part mini was probably some of the best drawing I've ever seen. Really, really clean. And not boosted or enhanced by putting in any Photoshop. It was just clean, solid lines, and the ship is actually from the book. But the most of the plot began with, and I don't know if they'll include it in the movie, but his father was presumably, you know, some kind of king or admin or general of these, you know, Federation of Planets. And they show him talking to all of them. He's kind of a big lead guy, and of course he's an anti-father guy. You know, rebels against his father. And that kind of pushes him to do other things. So we'll see if they include it.
Yeah. No, I mean, how long of a run is Guardians of the Galaxy as far as comic books go?
When it first came out, and the characters were a little different, and obviously simpler, spandex, etc. Groot was small and not really grown into a massive fighting machine. He was just kind of a cute thing. Of course, the raccoon was there. The raccoon was in the raccoon age. Got his own book for a while. So it was pretty popular. Then it kind of faded off. I think it went a year. I think it went 12 when it first came out. I mean, because back in the '80s, Marvel had a shitload of books out.
Yeah, just all these extra series.
Oh, you couldn't keep track of them all.
No, because even X-Men itself had 6 or 7 series going at a time.
And all these indie books came out, and it was killing their sales. I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles first printing on the shelf, pristine shape, in my favorite comic book shop. And I looked at it, I was like, I don't know. If I only I'd have bought that.
Yeah, just the investment there,
But it was just a shelf by itself of all these brand new indie comics. Printing was easier. They were going to Canada. They're doing it on newsprint. It wasn't high quality, but it wasn't the corporate norm. So it was so fun to break away from it.
You gotta like that.
That book with an autograph. Oh my God.
It would have been everything.
I'd have had a new caddy by now.
You retire on that bad boy.
Back in the day, I'm trying to remember. There was Samurai Penguin. Dr. Something. There's a couple of comedy books that were really good. But the thing with independent guys is, and most artists, they kind of fade off after a while. I mean, they do their run after about 3 or 4 books, and they're artists. They want to do something else. They want the stimulus. So none of them really lasted very long.
Well, I guess that is always the kind of thing, though. You could go for a while, and then depending on how much you're making on it, for how much work it has to go in.
Yeah, the trade-off for the work that goes into making a comic book and doing 22 pages and pencil and ink and color. Unless you're a big corporation, it's so small. Razor's edge.
That's why you can see why a lot of those Japanese ones just stayed away from doing color.
Yeah.
Why do color? That's going to take up way too much extra time and money.
I agree. Naruto kicks ass in black and white. It's perfectly fine.
The one thing I always kind of give to a lot of those, like the manga ones, is I like how a lot of them are just one guy. It just including like publishers and stuff like that. It's just, you take like Hellsing, just one guy. He writes and draws, and he pretty much finishes in about a year. 200 and something pages or whatever.
Wow.
But it's just, in the style, you got the black and white, simpler. The drawings don't have to be nearly as detailed because you're focusing more on a longer story.
Plus better editing, too, because you can sit for a year and go back over your stuff. You're really going to improve it a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't bought if I can recommend any manga that, and maybe it's already known, but Breaker. Oh, man, the foreshortening that he does, the fight scenes.
Just fantastic.
Just character-driven and really good. Really, really good. Kid who... the usual story, kid who didn't know he could, then he can, kind of like Wanted, the movie.
Yeah.
Not the comic book.
Yeah, not the comic book.
But eventually, the right teacher comes along, makes him break past his, normal lousy kung fu, and then he becomes the guy, the one.
The one, yeah.
It's the Matrix all over again.
I'll have to check that one out at some point.
Yeah, really good looking women, really well drawn. This guy's got a lot of talent.
I'm really looking forward to, Brian Lee O'Malley has a new comic book that's coming out in July called Seconds. And he hasn't done anything since, I think, the last Scott Pilgrim book, Volume 6, which came out in 2009 or something like that, 2008. And for the longest time I saw that Seconds thing, it was like, here's a new book, and it was on his website, which was like the most basic website ever. But sometimes I appreciate people that just have a simple website, just like, it's just direct, it gets to, no bells or whistles, you know what I mean? You just explains everything in like one page. Like, oh, okay, cool. And so finally I saw it come up on Amazon. It was on my recommended for me, which is the only thing about Amazon. Depending on what you buy, you start getting really weird things recommended for you. It's like Netflix too. You can watch 2 different types of movies, and next thing you know, you got these like gritty slasher films of the 70s.
Or rom-coms.
And children's cartoons. Because I noticed that for a while there, it was like the only thing I was watching on, I just rent from Netflix, I just rent cartoon shows. And then I would rent these 70s action movies or crime films, and then it just started getting mixed together, which is probably the weirdest thing.
I don't think you could amalgam those. I don't think there's anything in manga or in animation that has the 70s crime feel to it. Well, maybe I knew I was going to forget the name as soon as I said it. The TV series with the really great music. It was Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, Cowboy Bebop, the greatest.
Freaking love that show. We talked about it the last time.
I know. Well, you can talk about it. That was a period too, because me and Johnny used to always make the jokes. It's like there would always be the podcast, and for a couple of weeks, it would just be almost like, oh, it's the Cowboy Bebop podcast. Or this one was I remember I was watching a bunch of Clint Eastwood movies, so each week I'd come back with different Clint Eastwood facts. So it was like, the Clint Eastwood cast. Because I was reading the Clint Eastwood autobiography, or no, just a regular biography, because I'm like, well, if he's not going to release an autobiography, I'll just get the regular biography. I did the same thing for Arnold Schwarzenegger, too, because I'm like, for so many years I was looking for, I'm like, when is he ever going to do an autobiography? He's never done one. And then I saw this biography, I'm like, well, he'll probably never do one, I'll just take the biography. And then right as I started reading it, I looked online, I was like, oh, it's coming out in 4 more months.
Huh.
And then I just bought that one, too, and read both of them, so it was just...
Is he going to talk about what he did to his wife?
Yeah, there's like a little chapter on it, but yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, that's all it needs to be. I saw a review once where they complained about that. I'm like, well, clearly you're not a total Arnold fan if that's like the thing you're like caring about more than anything else.
Well, she took a chance marrying him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a rep that was unquestionable, and everybody knew it.
Yeah,
So all men say they can settle down, I suppose.
But it's one of the ones like Arnold, he's always been my favorite actor for the longest time. I mean, in my house, I have the Arnold Schwarzenegger collection of like every single one of his movies on DVD, Blu-ray. I think I used to have them all on VHS, and then I kind of replaced them all on DVD. But then I've got a bunch on Blu-ray ever since then too, of like the ones that need to be replaced.
I wonder if I'm the only person that actually still watches Last Action Hero.
I love Last Action Hero.
It's awesome.
To me, it's like, that's a great film. I remember when it came out, I didn't get to see it in theaters, but my buddy got it on Laserdisc. And we were watching it then right as it came out. And to me, it's just like, it's great, because what it is, it's like, it's all about like sort of a spoof, sort of, on the cop genre, you know? And the whole point is this kid who's the uber fan gets to go into the movies, which is the coolest concept in the entire world. I don't know why people didn't like that. Like, I don't care who you are, just think of like your favorite movie. Would you just love to go into it? You know, Dennis, like, what would you say is like one of your top favorite movies? Not number one, but just something that you like so much.
Not including porn.
Yeah, not including porn.
If I get a golden ticket for porn, I have 3
That's what they
picks.
need Last Action Hero 2. And Danny just he's like, fuck Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm just going into all these porno movies now. I'm 16 and it's ready to go.
Next one will be the porn cast. Boy, that's a good question. I would love to do The Matrix.
Yeah, but just think about like The Matrix, perfect example. Who would not want to go into The Matrix, you know? And you got a magical ticket, so if you don't like it, you can jump back out.
The problem is, if you're jumping in and you're just a viewer, that's a different story. If you can jump in and be one of the characters and go through the action they go through, the angst and the drama, that's different. I mean, I would jump into pre-mentioned hero. I would love to be that guy.
Well, you know, I feel like if you could jump into it, you could almost take on, you know, the powers of what the movie presents. You know, fictionally talking here, but I think that's how it kind of works. So no matter what you went into, I mean, you could go into a superhero movie, and if somehow, some way that you jumped on the same ship the Fantastic Four were on, next thing you know, you'll be the 5th member.
If they could ever make a good movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I'd be Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could just push Peter Parker out of the way. Give me that spider.
Spider-Man, yeah. So that was a good movie.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, did you like that one?
I liked the way he played the character. I don't know why people complained about it.
Some people just like, somebody told me once that they had a buddy who walked out of the movie. I'm like, okay,
What
one, it clearly, very rarely is a movie ever that bad. You know, I mean.
It doesn't qualify as that bad. There are a lot of that bad movies, like Twilight, perhaps.
Yeah.
You walk out on that, I respect you. Walking out on Spider-Man, all the fun, and what's her name, Easy A, what's the character?
Well, not Gwen Stacy. Emma Stone.
Emma Stone is freaking adorable. Who would walk out on Emma Stone?
Well, I thought it had good action in it.
Comedy.
It had the comedy. I mean, I will say that the one thing that kind of was weird to me is they advertised Rhino so heavily in the trailer.
Right. That was a failure.
And then, because I remember sitting there in the theater and going, man, like, are they really just pulling like the electro fight like dead center in the movie? I'm like, that's a ballsy approach. Just make this humongous action scene go like, they gotta bring the Rhino out.
Yeah, and it's the whole more you can handle thing. So yeah, if you throw in the Rhino, then yeah, it's overwhelming.
Well, because I almost thought because when I was in the theater, like the movie just went by at such a smooth pace that I couldn't really tell what the time was. So I thought the electro scene, I was like, this is only gonna be like an hour and a half in the movie. So they're saving the 3rd act is for, you know, the whole Rhino scene. I'm like, what are they gonna top it off next? And then it was just like, the Rhino thing was more almost like a surprise. And I was kind of like, they should have just advertised it so heavily in the trailer.
Yeah.
That should have been like the secret of the movie. Was that like, that's
the
almost
Easter
like
egg and put it
that's
at the end.
post credits thing is put Rhino right there and then Sinister Six. Instead of sort of advertising it in the trailer and then kind of going, well, that's clearly the next movie.
I did like the little interplay between Aunt May and him when he was talking about doing his own laundry. She said the last time he did that, everything turned red and blue, and he said he was washing the American flag. She's like, no one washes the American flag. What the is wrong with you? Seriously, he couldn't be there that long and not have her figure it out. She's not a
know.
moron.
Well, there's always some of those things in some superhero things. I'm like, why don't they just explain it to this person? Like, Aunt May deserves to know.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Who would you trust more?
You know,
Just Aunt May.
And I don't even know what issue that it's like. A lot of those things they don't even explain it to them until like 50 years later. You know, and they're running. It's just like really. It's kind of like Lois Lane. It's just like, Superman, just let her know, like, sort of right off the bat. Just
how could she not know? You don't go up to a guy from Krypton who can, you know, lift a tank and crush it and not feel and know that he's something beyond the norm. You can't just be soft when you're that guy. It's impossible.
Did you ever watch the Superman Unbound movie? It was the animated DCU one. It came out right before Man of Steel did.
No.
Well, they got a great line. What's the guy? I'm drawing a blank right now. But the other guy that works at the Daily Planet, who's kind of like the douchebag kind of guy.
Right.
They have him in Man of Steel. Instead of kind of making him like a douchebag, they kind of make him look like a rapist or something like that.
Wow.
But like, I like because he's got this line where he's sitting there. He's like, "You ever notice how Clark has all these muscles and stuff, but he doesn't play sports
or ever go to the gym?"
Yeah, he always mentions all these things. Almost like he's like, you wonder if he's gay. You know, he's never seems to be interested in women.
Best scene in Superman 2, when he lost his powers. He was walking in the snow, went into that diner, got his ass kicked by the trucker, right?
Oh yeah.
And then we go back to all the stuff, him getting it back and doing what he had to do. Then he goes back to the diner, spins around on the chair, goofy, you know, Richard Donner stuff.
Yeah.
And then when he turns, everybody turns and looks at him like, "Oh my God, what is that?" He just does his arms up in the air like he's pumping a weight and does it so daintily. I've been working out. And I love the sarcasm and the irony.
Yeah, I know, I love that scene. Is that one in like the? Is that only in the director's cut or the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2?
I saw it in the original movie when it first came out.
I couldn't remember because since I kind of watched both of them a couple times in the last while, they've got them like mixed, and I kind of forget what's in what.
See, I skipped the Richard Pryor one. I just don't know what happened there.
I will say the Richard Pryor one, it's got good elements in it though. There's, you know, because the kind of cool thing about it is it kind of breaks from. He goes back to Smallville for a bit, and it's got great scenes of him and Lana.
True.
And then the one part I think that's in it's in the third one is they pretty much have sort of like Red Kryptonite. It's not technically called that, but then Superman he's like in this bar and he's flicking peanuts and like these beer glasses and stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah, he's just all angry. I like that part a lot too. You know, where he's like evil Superman for a bit. But the thing is, it's like Richard Pryor. Like originally that was written as that was supposed to be Brainiac, and then they thought to make him more realistic and make him like this 70s computer hacker kind of guy. And they're like, "Well, get Richard Pryor in there. He's funny. People like him." And it's like, well, yeah, we like Richard Pryor, but
that's 80s Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always about the money in Hollywood. I get that, but they were just shooting for ticket sales, and you know, and Richard was still getting high at the time. And everybody knew he was an addict, but they did it anyway. He made it through, but he looked really wafery thin.
Yeah.
Like something was wrong with him. He seemed a little shaky the whole time.
Did you see Superman 4 Quest for Peace? Did you bypass that one too?
I saw the first 5 minutes. I went threw up and then not watched it again.
The one thing is like they have all these deleted scenes on the special edition version, where pretty much they had Bizarro in it, but they cut all the scenes out of him.
Damn it!
But they literally, you can go in there and there's a bunch of Bizarro scenes in there. I was like, wow. So if you ever get that, because I got like the Superman Rape Edition where it's got like 12 discs. Superman 1 is 4 discs, that's how many there is. And then Superman 2 I think has 3 discs because it's got the regular cut, the Richard Donner cut, and the special edition.
Wasn't Reagan in the Quest for Peace? Didn't they show like a snippet of news? I think that was the first time I've seen an actual president in a movie.
That might have been. I've only watched Quest for Peace once, so.
I thought there was the whole peace accord and nuclear proliferation reduction thing. I mean, I know it was all in line with that.
Yeah.
And Hollywood every once in a while jumps on the bandwagon and tries to help the message.
Yeah, help push it a bit, but not too much.
Help the reality message with a completely fictional character. It's a great plan.
Did you ever see the Supergirl movie they made in the 80s?
Yes. I almost had her name, the bad woman, the bad girl, the villain. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
God, she was an older actor, but she did a really good job in the role. But I thought the blonde they chose for it was wrong. She was too Beach Boys, one California girl.
Yeah, and it was one of those ones where kind of like, I guess it's like since it was a teenage character, like, well, let's make it focus like she's in college and whatnot. And she happens to go out and you're just kind of waiting like, when's Superman going to appear in this thing?
Well, by their own lesson, they finally learned it, is that the hard-edged sci-fi stuff, the stuff filled with angst and problems and complexities, is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
than just the goofy Richard Pryor's in a movie making a joke kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They've learned their lesson. They have to do it the hard way.
You know.
X-Men was good with Wolverine walking around as the main character too.
Yeah. You talk about like the Days of Future Past one or just all of them in general?
Yeah. That he had to come back in his, well, I guess same body since he never ages, but with that brain that has been filled with much more wisdom and more experience, and come back and get these two guys to win. It was a perfect choice.
Yeah. And, it's just like, Wolverine is that kind of character. He's not like the original X-Men character, but he's one of those ones, he pretty much is like the Mr. X-Men character nowadays.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't care. It's like, and Hugh Jackman does a fantastic job.
No doubt. He's a little tall for the character.
Well, they even said that in one of these interviews I read. They're like, if Hugh Jackman, he's so into the character, if somehow, some way he could lose a couple inches, he would have done it for the character.
Well, he was, I was in the box selling tickets for Jack Reacher. And the guy came up to the window and he says, "So, have you seen the Jack Reacher movie?" I said, "No, not yet." He goes, "Well, interesting. Have you read the books?" I said, "No, I haven't read the books." He goes, "Well, that's interesting because Tom Cruise is like, what, 5'6", 5'5". Jack Reacher was 6'6", and like 260 pounds. He's a big, huge guy.
Yeah.
So as soon as he said that, I hadn't seen the movie. It already ruined it unconsciously for me. So I know he's going to have someone else to reach for things on tall shelves that he can't reach.
I know, he's getting you a stool. He's literally going to have one of those like extended arm grabber things like the Reacher.
It's a Scientologist stool. I'm sure it has to be specific.
It's funny too, because like in every Tom Cruise movie, they always make him like equal height with everybody else too, just by the way they have him stand or give him platform shoes like in Top Gun. Because there's that one scene where he gets off the motorcycle and he's just got these really thick-soled shoes on there.
I've never seen that, really.
Uh-huh. And Kelly McGinnis or whatever, she's actually like 3 inches taller than him. So they had him equal him out.
What an odd choice for that, too.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know why they did that. Maybe she has that sad face. She can make herself look sorrowful in an instant.
Well, I think she's also like 8 years older than him or something in that movie.
It was a bit odd.
Yeah, because to that Top Gun special, like the edition one with the 2 discs, and they have it on Blu-ray now. They got that documentary. It's like 3.5 hours long on it, so it just gives you every detail known to mankind.
What was his co-pilot's call sign?
Goose?
Goose, that's right. I like it when certain things stick in my head, and it's probably the enunciation and the way they say them, but when he's at the piano and she says, "Take me to bed or lose me forever." He says, "All right, honey." I love that scene. In Batman, in the first remake of the Batman series, when the father was in the alley talking to
In the Batman Begins, or
Batman Begins, and he's talking to Jack, and he's saying, well, whatever the character's name was, the before he became the Joker.
Oh, and the Dark Knight one are we talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he kept saying, "That's okay, that's okay," and he did it in such a calm measure.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like he was psychologically calming him down. I felt calmer. It was a perfect thing, and then he shot him. So it was a great scene. You had high hopes, even though you already knew the outcome.
Yeah, you already knew it was coming.
Pearls are going to fall, the wife's going to die, and he's going to have that big-eyed, doe-eyed look on his face. It's all kind of set in the pattern. You can't break it.
Yeah. The other movies I've been kind of like, there's the Transformers 4 movie that comes out this month, and I watched the first Transformers movie because somebody sat me, because at first I was like, I don't know. I looked at the trailer and I was like, I'm not too sure. And then somebody sat me down and watched it and I was like, I didn't like this. And I'm just so used to like, the 84 Transformers movie is such a well-made movie. I literally think that's like a 4 out of 4 movie. The perfect animation. And the thing about it too is it's really like a PG-13 movie. It's one of the few movies where it sounds strange, but just like an animated character says shit, and it comes from it's like it's like even the DCU ones, they don't even say that in there. They're much more like adult oriented than this was. I mean, coming from just a regular TV show for kids, selling action figures.
But how long can we keep that guy who's doing Megatron? How long can they keep him going? I mean, he's pretty old right now. They've only got a limited amount of time. I always wonder with guys like that if they're sitting them down in the studio and just feeding them a bunch of lines just in case.
Well, it's kind of like when they made that Godfather video game, that was the last thing Marlon Brando ever did, was the voiceovers for that. They came out in 2006 or 7.
Nintendo 64.
No, not that old.
Oh.
It was on Nintendo Wii, PS2, and Xbox, and I think they might have made like special editions of it on PS3 and Xbox 360.
I was just talking about GoldenEye the other day.
That's my favorite game.
Still the best. I got divorced. I was living in the back of a vitamin store, and I was living on a hospital bed, which was like sleeping on concrete. But my kids would occasionally come to visit when the ex-wife had been able enough to bring them over because I'd lost the house, car, kids, job, the whole thing. Just in one fell swoop in 1 month. Sat on my glasses, got the flu. It was a bad month. But about a year and a half into it, I ended up with a Nintendo 64. I had GoldenEye and Mario Kart. And GoldenEye, of course, had the sniper ability. You had level after level, and the music.
The 007 music.
Hanging on that piece of iron while you're walking through all the statues. It's just awesome.
Wait, no matter what, whenever I play a first-person shooter, the 007 theme's always what goes through my head. Especially if you're sneaking around. It's just like, you start humming it to yourself out loud. And
the new 007s are really good.
Mm-hmm. I liked them a lot. The only thing that kind of bummed me out when I was watching Casino Royale, because at first I thought I was like, oh my gosh, is that actually a prequel? And then I realized I was like, oh no, it's sort of a reboot. That was my only kind of like, I don't know why, that really shouldn't affect the movie, but I guess because at first, like when I knew it was Casino Royale, I'm like, oh sweet, they're doing a prequel. And I think it would have been kind of cool to see that movie just take place in the 50s. Like, that would have been kind of cool. Because, you got 007, Dr. No in 1962. Well, if he's supposed to be younger, why don't they do it like in 1952 or something like that? 10 years prior.
The toys. They want the toys.
But whatever. No matter what, though, I still like those last three. And Skyfall was great.
Yes, Skyfall was super good. It made like $1.3 billion. It made a lot of money. It was just below freaking Avengers.
Wow.
So they did a really good job of that.
And I can't wait till the next one comes out. That's always the thing I look forward to. It's like 007 movie comes out, I'm excited. That's another one. I got every single 007 movie, even those ones that don't even count as 007 movies. Because you got Never Say Never Again, which is kind of like the bastard child one. It really is. It's like, it's 007, it's got the theme, it's got Sean Connery, but they don't treat it as part of the main series. And then you also got the original Casino Royale. That was the one made for TV in the 50s with Barry Nielsen in it.
Yeah.
The black and white one. And that one, it's like, why don't these guys put it in there? I mean, yeah, they might not be up to par with the other ones, but still a 007 movie.
Skyfall worked because they started out high tech and in today's modern society, et cetera, and then moved back to old school.
Yeah.
That's a gut.
That ending is like a great ending, too. Because, most 007 movies, they get bigger as it goes, but this one got simpler. It almost became like a Western.
Yeah. I did call on that, yeah.
That's how I kind of felt. It was just like, it just became primal and just kind of like, just about like home defense. And it was almost even like Home Alone.
Well, when they did Casino Royale, I guess they broke the record on flipping a car.
So that's when they flipped that Ford?
I thought it was it the Aston Martin he flipped when he was coming back and she was tied up in the road and he had to go around her?
I want to say that's when he was driving that Ford. Because I remember that was just that kind of thing in theaters, like everybody just kind of had that snicker, like,
yeah, what the hell?
He's driving a Ford.
Sucked.
Like, okay, whatever, but
that took balls.
Well, it's just like, okay, you got the Aston Martin, and then you got the then he had BMWs for a while, and all of a sudden there's like a Ford. I'm like, really? Like that? Like what? Can't have a Lamborghini or something like that?
Have we ever seen him in a Mercedes past the 90s? It's always been Beamers.
Yeah, well, all the Pierce Brosnan ones were all BMWs.
Yeah, Pierce.
No, until Die Another Day, he actually had that Vanquish, the Aston Martin.
How painful is it for Pierce Brosnan to come up and watch Casino Royale or Skyfall or Quantum of Solace?
Even though I'll tell you this though, those Pierce Brosnan ones though, I actually like all those ones a little bit more than I like the three newest ones. I kid you not. I'm actually a big fan of those Pierce Brosnan movies.
What was the one where the Asian kung fu actress was sitting backwards on the bike?
That's Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies. It's just, I don't know.
Because GoldenEye
Ice Castle.
Oh, that's Die Another Day.
Oh, yeah, that one. That one I did not like.
Die Another Day, I remember when I watched it in theaters, I was like, that's just kind of okay. But as I went back and watched it, like, I think last time I had a 007 marathon, I did this humongous one. I think I watched 17 of them.
Holy crap.
Like in a row. Like, I've never watched that many. Mostly I'll watch about 10, and then I'll be kind of burnt out. Not like in a row, but, each night watch a different one. And I watched that one, and I was like, you know what? This is actually a really good 007 movie.
The plot centration and the bad guy was pretty good.
I think, the beginning has a great intro when he's busting out of North Korea, and then he's in prison, so that's different.
Yeah.
They get him after a year off a trade. And then it's got the great scenes where he goes down to Cuba. That's kind of, everybody kind of forgets about that.
Yeah.
And then even the Ice Castle, it's like, okay, that's kind of where it starts to get maybe a little bit over the top, but I don't mind. I like my 007 to
You
have
got Roger Moorish when he pulled up in the car, and then you look outside and he's racing across the the flat ice in his speedmobile, whatever it was. That got very Roger Moore.
Yeah, and that part too. The only part that kind of bothered me there is like you could tell there was like the CG wasn't that great. You could totally tell he was like CG Bond. But other than that though, I actually ended up really enjoying it. And I'll tell you this though, so it sounds weird. Roger Moore's my favorite 007.
Come on.
See, I'm like that guy. It's like Roger Moore ones. Those are my favorites. Spy Who Loves Me, Moonraker, Man with the Golden Gun, The View to a Kill.
View to a Kill had at least a good theme song.
Has one of the best theme songs.
Yeah, it was one of the better ones.
It's actually, I'll tell you this, there's not a single 007 movie I know. I like them all.
Yeah.
They're, obviously some better than others, but in general, I went back and watched so many of them, and I was just, I don't think there's a single one I don't, they're all at least a 3 and up. I'll say that. Out of 4.
All right. At least we're not sticking down to 1. But hopefully, if I can get away from the distractions, which includes people, I can get these pages done because, I hear my kids calling. I hear the hand coming from the future saying, "Come on, Dad, we'd like to be like here."
Mm-hmm.
You've got to give up the extras and do this. But more importantly than paying the bills.
Even if you could just get a half an hour in a day. That's lots of times I say. If I can just get a half an hour of drawing in a day, just that, that's not much, but it's better than none.
No, that's a good call.
And if you just make it every single day, even if you're like, man, I'm tired. Before I go to bed, though, a half an hour.
It's a good call.
Just that's it. Because that's not asking much. You wish you could get 2, 3, 4 hours a day, but we all know sometimes that's not practical in an everyday, situation. So I shoot for the half an hour goal. If I can at least just get a half an hour.
John Tesh, who I listen to frequently, and I'm not ashamed of, says that I think they're calling it like 28 days to change a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, people changing is like spooning concrete.
Yeah.
Instead of using a shovel, it's really hard. People just don't want to change. People,
you mostly go through spoons before you go through concrete.
Yeah, exactly. My roommate always says when people's needs change, they will change, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I've gotten out of the habit of drawing, so I'm going to need at least like 11 days of just doing it in the half an hour a day. He also said that before you go to bed, to stop your brain from spinning, make the list of the things you need to do tomorrow so you're not laying in bed thinking about them.
That's a good one right there.
And I think sitting down and doing some drawing would be the same effect.
Yeah, I think that would cut it out. Because anyone would be going, oh, okay, I gotta do this, gotta do that. A lot of times the problem I have too is I'll sit down and if I watch like something like animated before I go to bed, then next thing you know, once I'm going to sleep, I just start getting all these like, okay, these animation techniques start going through my head of like, oh, how they do this and that and so on. And then next thing you know, you're like, okay, I kind of feel like animating right now, but it's already past midnight and just gonna wake up tomorrow and do it instead.
Yeah, being exhausted doesn't help. I've been pushing the envelope and all this stuff, and of course you gotta have a roof over your head, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there's always those things that kind of come through, but I think that like the system I've always thought was if I can just get a half an hour in, as long as I get a half an hour of something creative, that should at least be something,
Yeah, you're right. And before you go to bed too, then it's in your unconscious. I mean, you've got your brain got to get that satisfaction level, and maybe you get a little more melatonin when you go to sleep because you didn't let it go.
No,
all that shit you let go.
Yeah, just let it. Just get something out. If you get
bricks.
one drawing done, if that even, just something.
I almost said braggabics. You guys can see how fatigue does to you.
Yeah. The only thing about drawing sometimes is that you can sit down for a half an hour, and next thing you know, you're like, well, I'm only a half an hour in this. I kind of like to get a little bit farther. Look at the time; it's 1 a.m. now.
Yeah, Netflix has killed a lot of my sleep, but that was back then. I mean, we don't have TV in the house now. We just so many other things to do. We just don't have time or need for it.
That's probably better. The last podcast I did, I titled it, I Can't Sleep Without TV. And I was telling because I always think there's that line in Beavis and Butthead Do America where like, after the TV's broken, they're looking for a TV the whole time. They're like at nighttime and Beavis there's like, I can't sleep without TV. I'm like, shut up, Beavis. And I was like, that's how I felt too, is, especially if I went camping, you'd be sitting there and just like, well, at least I brought my Game Boy. That's close enough to being a TV.
I remember going to the bus station, and they used to have the TV set on the chairs.
Oh,
you put in a couple coins, you could watch TV for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of people who couldn't stay at home, couldn't sleep and find TV, they were there.
They were hanging out, putting some quarters in.
With 5 channels and whatever the antenna got.
Yeah. It's just, my entire life I've always been like, right before I go to bed, I throw a movie on. And no matter how much I watch, I could watch 20 minutes, I could watch an hour, I could watch the entire thing, but it's just something I've always done. And most of that's always everybody go like, well, that's how you've seen so many movies. You watch one every night. It's like, I don't know. I thought everybody did that just about.
I got a stack of DVDs that would probably fill half of this room just because, you know, I was single for so long. So that's what I did, watch movies, live vicariously through other people.
My DVD collection, last time I counted, was over 1,000.
Impressive.
It was a humongous thing.
Yeah, you passed me up. I think I'm breaking 400.
There was a period where, like, between about 3 of my friends, we felt like we almost had like an arms race to see who could get the most amount of DVDs.
I got so many that I created a rule that if they're going to borrow a DVD from me, I get to borrow one from your collection. That way we're quid pro quo. You know, you want to lose yours, you want to lose mine.
Since I was a little kid, whenever anybody borrowed stuff, I always make sure I borrow something back. You know, you need that collateral just in case, because you never know. Because every once in a while, I remember, you know, letting somebody borrow something and then they move away, and you're like, But I had something, even if it might not be worth nearly as much. At least I got something. In the long run, though, I remember I got my thing back. There was a game I let him borrow, and then I ended up with both of them. But yeah, there's a collateral system. Because some people just, and that's also too, is even if you don't even play it, even if you don't watch it or anything, it sits there and that reminds you that, oh yeah, they have my movie.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
So you don't forget
a ticket
about
system or voucher system.
Yeah. And that's how I always felt, you know. There's always a couple people that, like, I don't really care because, you know, I know them so well and I see them so often, you know, that doesn't bother me. But it's mostly when it's somebody that's like, oh, I only see you like once a month, maybe twice.
If I read a good book that's kind of life-altering or changing or worth adding to your own intellectual library, I'll give that book away.
Yeah.
But I usually don't give out the books that I know I'm going to go back to or that are special to me. So I did it once. My friend Hannah, who's an incredible writer, really good at her age of, I think she's like 19, but she writes like she's 40. I loaned her my Nine Princes in Amber full double series novel, and this has like a prequel from the artist or the writer before he died. He was a smoker, and it has the first 5 books that came out in the late 60s and the second 5 that came out in the 90s. They pushed him so hard he finally just continued the series with the son of the main character.
They found a way to keep it going.
Well, after 20 years, it's not quite keeping it going, but it was worth it. But if anyone can get out there and get Nine Princes in Amber by Roger Zelazny, highly recommend it. You'll get into the character, and if you don't smoke, you'll start smoking.
It's just one of those things.
It's just the way he describes it. He woke up in a hospital bed. He said the old old moon was in the arms of the new moon, and the way he just says things are almost rhapsodic and poetic, but he still keeps it like hard edged. It's really good.
I'll have to check that one out at some point.
Well, it's the Nine Princes of Amber, right? Amber's the original world, and it's peaceful, and you never see the same thing twice because it's the original world where everything comes from. On the other end of the spectrum, there's chaos. Chaos is where everything ends, but in between, only the Princes of Amber can walk between those worlds. But if you're from chaos, you're also a prince of chaos. You can also walk between the worlds. You have to walk the pattern, which is below the Amber Castle, and once you walk the pattern, each step gets harder and harder. These sparks fly out through your legs, and you transition and go through this cathartic change. If you make it and you don't die, if you step off the pattern, you disintegrate immediately. And they lost 2 of their 9 brothers doing that because they had to be strong enough to get through it.
Yeah, you got to be strong enough to follow that pattern and keep going.
And then once you get out, they go through things called like hell rides, where they have to get someplace very fast, so they'll just change the grass. Instead of being green, a little bit of purple. And then he'll start saying, so I puffed on my cigarette and I changed the color of the trees. And they'll just alter from world to world till they get back to where they have to go. It's fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out.
It's definitely a must read. It's a Hugo Award winner, Nebula Award winner. It's really top drawer. I was working in a print shop when I was in high school, and the old hippie that was in there, we just started chit chatting. He recommended it to me. He gave me the first one in paperback, his own novel, dog-eared, looked like crap. And I read comics. It was the first actual novel besides being in school that I actually read.
Yeah.
And it blew my socks off. I wanted to be in that world, so I borrowed everyone's sequentially. But he would only loan them to me unless I answered some questions.
So yeah, there's a price to be had.
He wanted to know how much I read in the book and how much I liked it, etc.
Yeah.
Then he would suddenly, well, I have to go get it, but you tell me what's in the book, and then suddenly produce it from his back pocket. It was really cool.
He treated it like, this is a respectful thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to be serious about it.
Yeah. He gave me my beginner's perspective on reading books and how to treat them.
Nice.
And I've added to my comics too. It's like any good song. Without angst, there's kind of no point.
Yeah.
Because everyone's in pain, whether they're hiding it or they know it or not. So you always try to stick that in the story so they can go find it.
Well, I've also learned too pretty much almost anything media-wise can kind of like, whatever you do, you know, you can write comics, and if you get almost like great ideas from going out and reading some novels and watching movies and, you know, checking out other forms of entertainment, and then you start getting these different ideas, and then it starts influencing you a little bit differently, and from there you might learn something new than just sticking with one medium.
Well, Shakespeare said there's only 5 plots in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't remember what they all are, but it's the, you know, the romance or the murder or family or something like that. Some basic lists. And they're all doing the same thing off of those basic premises.
Yeah, there's always kind of a basic structure. It's like, it's almost kind of how I come to the conclusion with movies nowadays. It's very rarely do I ever get something that's like, I was really surprised that happened.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't consider that necessarily a bad thing if I'm not surprised. It's one of those ones like, I understand. Like, a lot of times I'll watch a movie that I kind of already know how it ends. But it's how they get from point A to B. It's not who cares what the total ending is.
And the affinity you have for the characters.
Yeah, it's what happens in between.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Well, there's some good stuff out there. I don't know if you can match up your own character with like Edge of Tomorrow. Maybe if you were military, you might have some kind of connection to that.
Well, yeah, there's always that thing where they always try to put the relatable character in there, which is always kind of like the iffy thing. Like, sometimes superhero movies would have that for a while. It's kind of like in the Thor ones. They put Kat Dennings in there. It's like for like that girl that got tagged along who could care less about superheroes. I almost feel like that's why they put her in there.
Yeah.
But to everybody else, it's like, oh my god, that's such an obnoxious character. You know, and a lot of it's kind of like the original Judge Dredd had that too. It's kind of like Rob Schneider. It's kind of like, for any of you who don't really know too much about comics, there's Rob Schneider for you to relate with.
I did like the original Judge Dredd. Obviously, it didn't compare to the new one.
I still like it quite a bit, you know, and I still think it captures quite a bit. It's got a lot of characters from Judge Dredd in it, you know.
The new version, if you saw that in 3D...
I didn't see it in 3D, though.
It was a treat. When they did the drug, and I forgot what it's called.
The slow-mo.
Slow, yeah.
Or just slow, yeah.
And they did that, the crystally mist that came off of it. I mean, and they changed the music, and they changed the tone, and the lighting changed.
Yeah, and it just kind of got that overly saturated look.
You got the feel of it. I mean, if you knew what drugs were before, you definitely got into it more. And then they pop you back into reality. Everything's kind of gray tone and dirty, and the drug, it was cool.
I really hope, I know they keep saying like, oh, they might not have a sequel to that one, but I really hope at some point the pages get turned on there.
I heard
the movie did really good in I know it did really good in Europe, and obviously it's it's from UK. So I mean, like you would think that the US would be like the bonus, pot for like.
I don't think it broke 500 mil. I used to go to boxofficemojo.com. Because they have a breakdown of, you can always go to Rotten Tomatoes and they give you a price, but they usually give you the domestic version. And I want the domestic and the European. I want the total movie made, and they'll show you the production value and what that costs. And usually they never break 250 mil. And then I just want to know how much profit it made.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's important to me, but and then because you include DVD sales, posters, T-shirts, and all the
merchandising and so on. But it's just like those ones. I hope they put a little bit more onto it. And I don't know if Judge Dredd's kind of a somewhat forgotten character this day and age between like the average Joe, because he's sort of there, but he also almost is one of those kind of like, he's not really just in your pop culture face. He's kind of like, you sort of have to know who he is.
Yeah. You
can't just slap him up there and have everybody know who he is.
My friend Vince keeps sending me, there's a radio station he listens to, and they have the secret word of the day, so you can win 2 tickets to Comic-Con.
Huh.
So he keeps sending them to me, and I keep texting them back to the radio station. Hopefully they're not charging me 99 cents to do that. He did inform me about that because we've done it about 10 times.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'll kill him at that.
Hopefully, if they do charge you 99 cents, you definitely win.
Well, even though getting down to San Diego, unless they pay for airfare, I'd have to sell the tickets.
Yeah, that's true.
Living on the edge, yeah.
Because it just costs too much to drive down and back.
How much would the irony kill me if I had the tickets in my hand? My friend Ray lives in San Diego. If I could get there, I would stay at his house. He'd totally calm me, and everything would be great. And I couldn't get there because I couldn't travel that far.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'd kill myself.
Well, always for me, it's like those distance travels. It's just like I don't have a car that's equipped to go that far. You know what I mean? It's all like county cars.
I always wanted to. I always said that I didn't want to go to San Diego Comic Con unless they invited me. Unless I had a comic book out and there was a reason I was going.
Yeah, I can give you an exact reason to be there. I'd love to go to that thing. That one always seems like it's going to be so big, and it's like my only kind of fear, because it's sort of the Sacramento one, the one thing that sort of bothered me a little bit was the comic books felt like they were kind of like third roster. That wasn't the main reason people would. It felt like television and movies kind of held a higher kind of place.
Yeah.
And it was, if Neil Adams even had that, he said one of the funniest things ever, because after we got to meet him, get autograph, we're kind of walking away, and he's talking to somebody else. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just went and met that actor," and he was all like, "Actors? Why the fuck would you want to meet an actor? They don't draw anything." And he said it like as loud as he could.
That's awesome.
So like, that was one of the things. The comic books were sort of there, and I sit there and watch people, and you just watch people walk past Neil Adams, Chris Claremont, not even look at him.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
And it's just like.
Without kneeling?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's just like, well, that seems like the main reason you should be here is for these guys. And they kind of, they have their little booths, and then you get the guys from the Boondock Saints that have these like humongous like sets going up and all this stuff, and 1,000 people in their line. Well, that in the Walking Dead section, I guess.
Yeah.
I keep calling them the Boondock Saints guys, but people are like, well, they're more famous almost now for the Walking Dead. Oh, okay, whatever.
Well, now that I work at the Staples Print Center in the copying section, I'll be able to have more than just a table when I go there. I mean, I have my table, no finished comic book. I had a bunch of flyers that I made, these little 4x4s on 8.5x11. And they were color and they were kind of cute. And I have my business cards.
Nice.
Business cards are kind of cool. I mean, I always get a good reaction from them, but they don't have the same effect they used to.
Yeah.
It's like giving a comic book card to a DVD. Somebody's going to take the DVD.
Yeah.
So, but next time I'll have a tablecloth, I'll have a sign behind me.
It'll be nice to have some prints too, even that you could just sell off just to have.
It's almost pointless to sit there without a comic book. Yeah, I feel like a dunce.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm not really a speed sketcher like I used to be back in the day, so I'm not sure what I could do for people.
Yeah, you almost need to have just something you can kind of hand out.
Yeah.
Some of those independent ones from Sacramento, like I remember one I looked at it, and it literally looked like the guy just made them on a bunch of like Xerox machines and whatnot like that. I was like, I almost kind of went, do you not own a computer this day and age? I mean, there are hobos out there that have computers.
My mother used to make copies at school. She was a teacher's aide at the school I went to, like a K through 6, and they would have this machine where she had to run the handle on the paper, then it would print them out one at a time. I don't know what the hell it was called, a Zipatone or something like that.
Hand crank version.
Right, but it was all purple ink. There's no way around it.
That's what you got.
Yeah, and the farther you went, you had to keep going because you had all these classes to get paperwork to. You had to take what you got.
Yeah, just whatever came out, that's it.
So we're in school and we got these faded papers and we're trying to read them. And I know my mom did it, so I can't complain. She was also the clown in my school.
Huh.
She had a bright green, almost lime green outfit with polka dots, yellow wig, makeup, the whole festooned with clownyism. And it was my mom. She called herself, her name was Rosemary, she called herself Roso. First day they came out was really the day that I started getting my ass kicked in school. So thanks, Mom, for being so joyful.
Well, that didn't help out whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I really hate clowns. Who doesn't?
Yeah, they're making a new It movie, I hear.
What's that?
They're making a new It.
Oh, come on.
The one thing is, like, the old It movie, Tim Curry's just full on amazing in that.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But since it's kind of a made-for-TV movie, you kind of lose out, like, your horror and kind of violence or whatever for the fact that it's got to be PG, pretty much.
Speaking of Tim Cruise,
Tim Cruise, like, the combination of Tom Cruise and Tim Curry.
The amalgam, short but wide. Tim Curry and Tom Cruise. What was the movie called? Not Legend. It was.
Well, there's Legend with Tim Curry and Tom Cruise. The one that's the fantasy one by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, with the girl and he plays the devil. He's got the huge horns. Oh my God, it's so good.
I love that movie. I got a special edition copy of that too. You know what that really reminds me of? Is I always feel like Legend of Zelda must be like somewhat based off that too. Because if you look at that, it almost feels like a live action Legend of Zelda movie.
Good.
Tom Cruise feels sort of like Link.
Just got the sword.
He's got the princess, and then like Tim Curry's just like a Ganon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different, but like it has that same element of it.
Yeah,
that was like the pinnacle of fantasy movies, though. I think it was in like that mid '80s section, because you had Legend, you had Never-Ending Story, you had Labyrinth. Sort of like Time Bandits, I guess you could sort of say it was like that.
Time Bandits was awesome.
That's a great one.
It's my top 20 movies. It's a freaking awesome movie.
There's a handful more. I'm just drawing a blank. Oh, Willow. That's another really good one. The other Star Wars. That's always like kind of they all remember Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but nobody always remembers the Willow as much. And it's just as good, practically. I love that one.
We have a joke in Staples where we're trying to search for something, especially because I'm new. And if it goes too long, I'll start going dun 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 dun. I'm looking back and forth, dun dun dun, and I'll turn around and see if they're smiling or not. If they're not, I'll discontinue that and call somebody. But most of the time they get it, and then they start chuckling behind me, so I'm covered. It's pretty funny. We're gonna make paper mache boulders and put them down the aisles. And
there we go. I don't know what it is like. Ever since being a kid, whenever you have an automatic garage door, you just start getting this Indiana Jones feel. Like you press the buttons, like dun 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 dun, dun. Like you just gotta get through it just in time.
Roll under the door.
Yeah.
Your mom wonders what you're doing.
You reach back, grab your hat really quickly.
Who did that? That was in Family Guy did the thing on that too. Oh, Million Ways to Die in the West.
Did you see that one?
Go see that movie.
I didn't see it. It was one of those ones I wanted to see. I saw The Maleficent on that day, strangely enough.
How was it?
That was actually pretty good. I thought I was pretty impressed. It had a perfect runtime of like an hour and a half. Because I thought it was gonna be they're gonna try to extend it out to 2.5 hours.
Well, if you're hungry for sheep penis, Million Ways to Die will satisfy all your needs. That's all I'm going to say about the movie. Just go see it. It's very pink in many parts of the movie. You're welcome for my review.
Oh, there we go. Well, I guess it seems like a good time to wrap it on up. Make sure you check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, animation, videos, art, and more. And Dennis, throw your website out there?
Yeah, to go check out my comic book. Still on page 8, but with high hopes for page 9. Go to DennisSweatt.com. It's DennisSweatt.com. Just like perspiration with 2 T's.
Yeah, the 2 T's is the key thing.
It is. It's probably Nordic. It's probably Sweatt. Back in the day.
But, you got to come back on again once again. I think now we're sort of in a closer environment here.
Yeah, we really are way closer than we were before.
I know, so this new, pretty much, it's a massage studio, but I also call it the Old Man Orange studio, too.
And no stuffed animals or building blocks. I appreciate that.
No, yeah, not that crayon.
I think I was sitting in a child's chair when we did the last one.
Yeah, we just had makeshift chairs and everything. It was a weird place to do it. I was like, well, that gym's the center ground. Let's just go there. Nobody uses the child's room.
We should have took more pictures. People really missed the visual on that. We should have added that to the podcast.
I know, that would have been perfect. Just be like, look at our stat area we have to do a podcast at. So till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Dennis Sweatt.
We will see you some other time.
Salut.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.